Good afternoon, and thank you for waiting. Now we would like to have the awarding ceremony of APASL Awards. We would like to present this year's recipients of the APASL Awards. First, I'd like to present the named awards. The first Okuda Omata Distinguished Award goes to Professor Hui Zhang. Moderators, please. Unfortunately, Professor Zhang is not present today, so we'd like to ask Professor Jidong Jia to please come up to the stage.
On behalf of the President and Professor Shela and the organizing committee, and this award is the Okuda Omata Distinguished Award to Professor Hui Zhuang. 这个奖是 Okuda Omata 杰出贡献奖，颁发给中国的庄辉院士。我只能请贾教授来，贾教授待会儿呢还要专门介绍一下庄老师。
Thank you and congratulations. Please give Professor a big round of applause. And next, the Powell Sarin Achievement Award goes to Professor Tatsuo Kanda.
The Powell Sarin Achievement Award is presented to Dr. Tatsuo Kanda. Congratulations.
Thank you and congratulations. Please give a big round of applause. And next, the Lesmana Solano Great Mentor Award goes to Professor Nin Chi.
This award is named in the Lesmana Solano Great Mentor Award, and this award awarded to Dr. Nin Qin. So, 这是 Lesmana 索拉诺大师奖，颁发给中国的宁琴教授。祝贺 ，Congratulations！
Congratulations. Please give a big round of applause. And next, the Rising Star Award goes to Professor Ashok Chowdhury.
So the Rising Star Award of the APASL is presented to Dr. Ashok Chowdhury. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Please give another big round of applause.
So now, we'd like to have the lectures from the three awardees. First, Okuda Omata Distinguished Award. Yeah.
Okay. So in the first presentation by the Professor Ji Dongjia, and past president of the APASL, to introduce for the Okuda Omata Distinguished Award to Professor Zhuang Hui. So please welcome Professor Jia.
Thank you, dear Professor Shina, dear Professor Wei. Thank you for your kind invitation. My slides, may I have slides? Yes. It's really a great honor for me today to present a brief introduction to Professor Zhuang Hui, who is awardee for the Okuda Omata Distinguished Award this year. Due to the personal reason, Professor Zhuang could not make it, so he sent me the message of gratitude to every one of you. I will just summarize the main points. I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to the Steering Committee, Executive Committee members of APASL 2024 in Kyoto for honoring me with this esteemed Okuda Omata Distinguished Award. It is a tremendous privilege to receive this award, which I knew as a testimony to collective achievement of all Chinese doctors, Chinese hepatologists, rather than to my own efforts. This allocate served as a powerful incentive for both me and my peers, inspiring to continue our work with even greater dedication. Finally, I wish to convey my sincere thanks once more for your long-standing support and encouragement. So this is a message from Professor Zhuang Hui. So in the next 18 minutes, I would like to briefly introduce what Professor Zhuang's achievement. You can see this is actually the starting point of Professor Zhuang Hui's medical career. He graduated from the first Moscow Medical College, USSR, the former Soviet Union, in 1991. This very handsome man, young man, actually was Professor Zhuang at that time. Then Professor Zhuang works almost all the time in Peking Medical College. Later they called Peking University Health Science Center. He used to be the Dean of the School of Public Health, the Dean of Department of Microbiology. In 2001, he was elected as a member of Chinese Academy of Engineering, which is a lifelong academic honor for his achievement. He also served 2 terms of president of Chinese Society of Hepatology, China Medical Association. Most importantly, he was also served as executive council member of APASL. He has published more than 200 peer-reviewed English papers and more than 500 Chinese papers in the fields of virology and hepatology. He has many patents and many achievement awards from Chinese government, different levels. Now I would like to just mention a few of his contributions. The first one is identification of hepatitis E in China and other countries. Now, in the late 1980s, he identified both endemic and sporadic cases of hepatitis E in China. Actually, that's the first cases in China. Before that, they are never reported. Actually, this transmitted by the contaminated water after his hard working by epidemiology and also laboratory work. He isolated the virus from the patients. Later on, he established the macaque model of hepatitis E in China. He also developed the first diagnostic reagent for hepatitis E in China. Then later on, together with other professors, as yesterday we talked with Professor Omata, he worked with Shikata, with Professor Nang, and also with Professor Locanini. They jointly identified the first cases of hepatitis E in Australia. He also developed HEV IgG antibody ELISA kit in China and got approval from the China FDA. Later on, he successfully transmitted HEV from rabbit and pigs to rhesus monkeys and cynomolgus macaque. This is also very important laboratory works, found the foundation for the diagnosis and treatment of hepatitis E. Then next, I would like to introduce Professor Zhuang Hui's contribution to the prevention and the treatment of hepatitis B and hepatitis C in China. He proposed free vaccination to all newborns in China as early as in 2000, together with another 50 renowned doctors. So he proposed to the government leaders to offer all this free vaccination to all newborn. Actually, this was accepted. As a result, hepatitis B vaccine has been integrated into the expanded program on immunization since 2002 in China. This is really a very important landmark for the prevention and the control of hepatitis B in China. As a result, we can see as the increasing of the coverage of hepatitis B then lead to the declining in surface antigen rate in the general population, well, from nearly 10% in 1992 to around 6% in 2020. Especially for young age group, well, the prevalence dramatically declined from nearly 10 to 0.2 or 3. So this treatment, this tremendous achievement, really appreciated by the International Medical Society, including the WHO. He also confirmed hepatitis C was the cause of blood-borne hepatitis endemic in the mid of 1980s. So the first cases also, the first diagnosis also confirmed in his laboratory. Later on, he proposed nucleic acid test to screen donated blood for HBV, HCV, and HIV in 2015. At a meeting, in a government meeting, he directly proposed this very stringent screening for the donated blood after antibody or antigen screening. Later on, the donated blood have been screened for HBV DNA, HCV RNA, and HIV RNA since January 1st in 2015 in China. So this further dramatically decreased the transfusion-associated hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and HIV transmission. He also promoted and advocated to increase accessibility and affordability of antiviral therapy. He appealed to accelerate the approval process of new antiviral drugs for hepatitis B and hepatitis C, also including the antiviral in the reimbursement list of medical insurance. As the president of Chinese Society of Hepatology, he coordinated the drafting and publication of the first ever guideline for prevention and control of chronic hepatitis C, and then chronic hepatitis B. This is also landmarkers for the prevention or clinical treatment of viral hepatitis B and hepatitis C in China. Of course, he spent nearly several decades. This is really a long-standing commitment to the elimination of hepatitis B as a public health threat in China. He supervised the update of chronic hepatitis B guideline recently. Now, he proposed to expanding the treatment of chronic hepatitis B, shifting the paradigm from treat if only to not treat if only, then gradually, maybe hopefully at the end, treat all with detectable HBV DNA. Still, he's active in the clinical research, in the teaching, and also in the medical communication. So this is a slide showing that the newly updated Chinese guideline virtually treat over 90% of patients. You can see actually over 90% of patients in China are already older than 30 years old. So if they have detectable HBV DNA, we can treat. Then another less than 10% of patients, they are younger than 30 years, but they can also be treated if they have detectable HBV DNA, and if they have elevation of ALT, any elevation, or histology, or non-invasive test for fibrosis, or have a family history of cirrhosis of HCC, or have extrahepatic manifestation. So this slide showing that currently, this is the one guideline that's closest to the treat all. Only a small percentage of patients will not be treated according to the current guideline. So this is treat all strategy. We are almost to the treat all. So this is also a very important step further to expanding diagnosis and treatment of hepatitis B. So by doing so, we can really achieve, only by doing so, we can achieve the 2030 goal of elimination of viral hepatitis as a public health threat. So last part, I would just mention Professor Zhuang Hui's contribution in the promotion of academic exchange in China and in Asia Pacific and the world. Professor Zhuang was one of the founders of the Chinese Society of Hepatology. Well, Professor Wang is the first one, is the first term, the founding, is the founding president. Then Professor Zhuang Hui was the second and third term of president of Chinese Society of Hepatology. In this position, he promoted academic exchange with many countries, between China and many countries. This is from China and Indonesia with Professor Lesmana. At that time, all professors are there. We signed a bilateral collaboration. We have joint academic meeting. Then we also have collaboration with Japanese doctors, especially with Professor Omata. I think most of us are still here. At that time, we are young. We are much younger. But now, Professor Omata is still, the color of the hair is still the same. So this, almost lastly, we can see Professor Zhuang Hui also play a key role in organizing and conducting the annual meeting of APASL in Beijing in 2010. At that time, that's Professor Omata and also the Professor Laura Powell and the China leaders presented the opening ceremony. At that time, Professor Wei, the general Secretary in General, to serve all this. So I think all the most prominent figures in APASL are here. So really, we had the honor to hold this the first APASL annual meeting in China mainland. Professor Zhuang is also a great mentor. Many of his students or trainees now become the leaders in the field of clinical hepatology or in the study of hepatology in the liver disease. So you can see, I didn't count how many members, but for just show some, Professor Fengmin Lu, he also became the Dean of the Microbiology, the successor of Professor Zhuang. And Professor Li Jie, somewhere here, I just saw, but now I cannot, because so many. Also, a very important, the leader in the field of clinical, preventive hepatology, I would say. Then lastly, Professor Zhuang, not only a scientist, not only a good teacher, but also a role model of good husband, good father, and a good grandfather. This is, Professor Zhuang told me, that's maybe the group photo of the whole family, because his two sons not live together with him. So I really appreciate this very happy, very warm scenario. So last but not least, I would like to just summarize. Professor Zhuang is highly respected within and out of China for his scholarship, leadership, mentorship, and friendship. So when we prepare the slides, the Dr. Kong, I will mention later, she feel all these English words cannot express our admiration and respect to Professor Zhuang. That's in Chinese. Professor Omata may read this. 高山仰止，景行行止. While we try to translate into Japanese, I don't know whether it makes sense. Here is we use a ChatGPT try to translate it into English. That means Professor Zhuang's character and knowledge are like towering mountains and broad avenues, inspiring admiration and guiding people's conduct. So I hope this is what we would like to express. Last but not least, we sincerely thank Professor Lu Fengmin and Li Jie, two of Professor Zhuang's very prominent, very renowned students, now are also leaders in the field of hepatology. Also would like to thank Professor Yu Hong. She's here, and Professor Kong, due to personal reason, she could not be here for their providing excellent photos and preparing and revising this presentation. I thank you all for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy. Okay. So the second speaker is the Professor Tatsuo Kanda. He's the awardee of Power Sharing Achievement Award. Professor Kanda, please.
Thank you, Dr. Shina and Weirai, and Professor Sarin and Professor Omata. I'm very happy to win this award. I have nothing to disclose. It's easier to control of chronic hepatitis B virus and C virus infection by the development of antivirals. We may also pay attention to other hepatitis viruses. In Asian countries, infection of hepatitis A virus and hepatitis E virus are common disease. Increase of the number of these patients could follow the improvement of hygiene environment. I received medical degree in 1991 at Niigata University School of Medicine. I belong to the baseball club and ski club. Among senior doctors of baseball club, there are many famous hepatologists in Japan. After I received a medical license in 1991, and I joined the first department of medicine, Chiba University School of Medicine. This is old building. And 1995, I went to Chiba University Graduate School of Medicine, Chiba, Japan. And I joined so-called Niken number 2 research room, conducted by Professor Osamu Yokosuka. I was interested in fulminant hepatitis and study and research in its related area. Professor Kunio Okuda occasionally checks the progression of my experiment on Saturday evening. And he also helped me. Slide shows the HIV genome. HIV genome has 7,600 nucleotide RNA genome. Encodes at least 10 or 11 proteins. 3C and 3D are protease and RNA-dependent RNA polymerase, respectively. Professor Omata and Professor Yokosuka told me to research hepatitis A virus around 1999. I learned cell culture experiment, molecular cloning, and transfection of DNA from Professor Naoya Kato and the present professor of Chiba University. I expressed of flag HIV protein confirmed by Western blot. And we found HIV BP3 weakly activate serum responsive element associated to signaling. I also started to collaborate with Professor Verena Gauss-Müller, a famous researcher for hepatitis A virus, University of Lübeck, Germany. Hepatitis A virus protein is translated and replication enhanced by facilitating cap-independent translation through an internal ribosomal entry site, IRES, mainly located in the 5' non-translated region, and host cellular translation initiation factors. We made siRNA like this position. siRNA and amantagene broad-spectrum antivirals could inhibit HIV IRES-mediated translation were demonstrated. Silencing HIV infection by siRNA was demonstrated. However, a long-time administration of siRNA could lead to HIV genome mutation, conferring siRNA resistance. Professor Sarin, the president of APASL 14th Bionickel Conference, New Delhi, India, 2004, gave me Young Investigator Award for this work. I also researched HCV replication and hepatocarcinogenesis. Making and using HCV subgenomic replicon system, I observed that ribavirin induces HCV RNA genome mutation and inhibits HCV replication. Professor Rice, Charlie Rice, Nobel winner, gave me this plasmid. At this time, he's a professor of Washington University, St. Louis, Missouri, United States. I had postdoctoral training for 3 years under Prof. Ratner and Ranjit Ray at St. Louis University, St. Louis, Missouri. After coming back from United States to Japan in December 2008, and I became a junior track associate professor at the Department of Medical Medicine and Clinical Oncology, Chiba University Graduate School of Medicine, Japan. I and Professor Fumio Imazeki and young graduate students inside and outside Japan. We research and work hard every day. In Korea, similar situation, of sanitation in Japan, young adults seem not to have protective antibody against hepatitis A virus. Although universal vaccination program for newborn has been started since 2015. However, 10,000 HIV outbreak occurred in 2019. I collaborate with Professor John, Seoul National University, and we demonstrated HIV 5' non-translated region from South Korea had relatively highly homology to HIV sequence previously reported from Japan, and this region would be considered one of the antiviral targets. Slide shows the annual incidence of hepatitis E, orange bar, and hepatitis A, gray bar, in Japan. We met in 2010 HIV outbreak in Japan. And the positive rate of anti-HIV in subjects under 30 years was lower than those over 50 years in indigenous Japanese group. White bar is Japanese group, suggesting that HIV outbreak will occur in near the future. Hepatitis A outbreak associated with a revolving sushi bar, kaiten sushi, in Chiba, Japan, were also reported. In this outbreak, the number of male patients equal to or less than those female patients. Ultra-deep sequence also useful of full-length HIV genome to reveal possible unknown genomic determinants associated with disease severity. We developed anti-HIV drugs and therapeutic targets. Internal ribosomal entry site activities of clinical isolate derived hepatitis A virus variously, and inhibitory effect of amantagine also shown. Interleukin 29, one of the interferon lambda, could suppress HIV and HCV internal ribosomal entry site mediated translation and replication. Knockdown of host factor La protein could inhibit HIV IRS activity. JAK inhibitors AG490 and SD1029 could suppress La protein expression. And JAK2 inhibitor AZD1480 inhibits HIV replication in human hepatoma cell line. And sirtuin inhibitor also useful for inhibition HIV replication. Glucose-regulated 78 is down-regulated in association with HIV replication. We found inhibitory effect of Japanese rice koji miso extract on hepatitis A virus replication in association with elevation of GRP78 expression. GRP78 is an attractive target of antiviral against HIV infection. In August 2017, I moved to Division of Gastroenterology and Hepatology, Department of Medicine, Nihon University School of Medicine, Tokyo. We met another outbreak in 2018, hepatitis A virus. In 2018, there was an outbreak of hepatitis A male-dominant infection in Japan. Hepatitis A is also considered as a sexually transmitted disease now. Patients with hepatitis A should be receiving attention, and this disease needs to be prevented more than ever. Despite the development of an effective vaccine against hepatitis A, universal vaccination has not yet been performed in Japan. We observed that zinc homeostasis pathway as a key pathway of antiviral activity of Japanese rice koji miso against HIV infection in hepatocytes using RNA sequence analysis. And zinc sulfate inhibits HIV replication and enhanced GRP78 expression in a dose-dependent manner. Recently, we discovered several effective drugs against HIV infection and their mechanism by drug repositioning, in silico screening, etc. Favipiravir, nicotinamide, masitinib, we filed a patent. These work, Reina Sasaki Tanaka almost she did. In silico screening of anti-hepatitis A virus compounds targeting the 3C protease enzyme using AI from antiviral library of 25,000 compounds to evaluate anti-HIV 3C protease inhibitor. We found these compounds. Autophagy is an important cellular mechanism in several virus host-cell interaction. HIV inhibits autophagy, and amantagine inhibits HIV replication by enhancing autophagy. The Japan Agency for Medical Research and Development, AMEDO, HIV and HIV study group has recently published the recent advance in research and clinical practice recommendation for hepatitis A. If you want to read, please let me know by email, please. And in Japan, until the early 2000s, acute hepatitis E infection, hepatitis E virus infection was considered very rare until reports emerged confirming the existence of HIV genotype 3 and 4 infections. Until now, vaccines against hepatitis E have not yet become available in Japan. Although the use of off-label ribavirin for HIV infection was shown to be effective, the development of antivirals against HIV infection is urgently required. We also HIV guideline. We also made and submit HIV part of the guideline from AMEDO study, HIV and HIV study group. In conclusion, we should also promote and develop the antivirals against HIV and HIV infection. Future plan. Professor Shuji Terai, Niigata University School of Medicine, an expert for liver generation, invited me to come back to Niigata. I will go there. And antiviral against HIV and HIV should be developed. We will contribute to APASL through the research of the liver and liver disease, including hepatitis A and E, and educate young fellow. study together. We will contribute patients with liver disease in the world, including Asia-Pacific region. This slide is acknowledgement. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Kanda. Congratulations.
We will move in last but not least presenter. Lesmala Solalo Grade Mentor Award recipient, Professor Ninqing. Professor Ninqing, please, welcome.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor and pleasure to receive the Lesmana Solano Great Mentor Award, named after two esteemed mentors. My presentation for this remarkable event is titled, A Journey to Teach and Learn. APASL has been the driving force behind our motivation and growth. In 2007, during the annual meeting in Tokyo with my students and colleagues, we presented 6 abstracts. When I first received the email from the organization office informing me of the award in 2024, I must admit that I thought it might be a mistake, considering that so many outstanding mentors from Asia-Pacific region. It was a pleasantly surprised moment for me and our group. This award is not only an award, a rewarding and an honor, but also serves as inspiration and responsibility. Reflecting on my education, I believe I have been a delegate student, as evidenced by my childhood photo holding a book. Briefly, my medical education began in 1980, and I obtained my MD in 1985 and PhD in 1993 from Tongji Medical College. Under the guidance of my mentor, Professor Dong Yongshui, I worked on 2 projects: the detection of HBV DNA, at that time by dot hybridization, and its relationship with the disease progression, and the toxic shock syndrome toxin TSST of Streptococcus aureus in infectious patients. And Professor Wen Yumei was on my committee. Following that, I pursued my postdoc training at University of Toronto, studying the pathogenesis of viral hepatitis with Professor Gary Levy's team, who was honored with Order of Canada. In 2000, I returned to Wuhan and appointed as a full professor. In summary, my academic appointments has been as the following. I became the department chair in 2006 and the director of institute in 2007. More recently, I was appointed as the chair for the National Key Laboratory for Diagnosis and Treatment of Severe Zoonotic Infectious Diseases. I began supervising master's and PhD students in 2000. Over the past 2 decades, serving as a mentor has been both rewarding and challenging. However, it has been an invariable journey during which I have remained dedicated to teaching and learning from my graduate students. Here are the young faces in the prime of their lives. Each of them spent 3 to 7 years with me and the group, creating lots of precious memories. After graduation, some of them stay, become my colleagues, but most of them moved forward to different parts of the country and even the world to pursue their own career. This group has been growing, taking on more and more responsibility over the time. I'm going to spend some time introducing my students and their achievements. Recently, we had over 15 publications in Hepatology International, demonstrating that Hepatology International among their favorites. Other publications, including prestigious journals such as Journal of Hepatology, British Medical Journal, and Journal of Clinical Investigation. They are listed here. These studies aim to illustrate the mechanisms involved in disease development and progression, clinical studies ranging from randomized control trial to real-world study, and the prognostic models for earlier diagnosis. Ultimately, this evidence will support a scientific consensus to guide treatment decisions. Some of my students have rapidly grown and become my co-principal investigators. Dr. Woody is one of them. Over the last 2 decades, with the support of national grants, Professor Woody has assisted me and the research team in putting enormous effort into developing new strategies focused on breaking immune tolerance. This project is named Ocean Project, aiming to improve functional cure after durable treatment. The Ocean Project consists of several randomized control trials, including OSET, COST, ENDEAVOR, and ANCHOR, aimed at investigating the curative potential of novel sequential or combination therapy, involving diffuse viral suppression and immune modulators, such as pegylated interferon, IL-2, therapeutic vaccines, and GM-CSF in nuke-suppressed chronic hepatitis B patients. A large real-world study has also been conducted to validate these results, and the long-term follow-up of these patients is still ongoing. The novel strategies has significantly improved S antigen loss, meaning functional cure, rates of chronic hepatitis B from 0% with traditional antiviral therapy to 8.5, even to 26% recently with either sequential or add-on pegylated interferon-based combination therapy. These scientific results have been collected and recommended for selective patients in current guidelines for the management of chronic hepatitis B. Based on the results from the above series of clinical studies and many others, we and our Chinese colleagues have proposed a treatment roadmap outlining feasible strategies to improve functional cure rate in CHB patients. Additionally, we have suggested prediction models for functional cure of CHB, such as BGT and RGT, enabling the implementation of functional cure strategies for CHB patients. The HBV cure CR antibody model was recently established. HBC-related antigen and HBs antibody levels partially reflected post-therapy anti-HBV immune responses in the host. We demonstrated that lower HBCR antigen and higher HBs antibody levels at the end of treatment were associated with sustained cellular and humoral immune response. These levels can be used to identify a unique immune response pattern in patients likely to achieve durable functional cure post-pegylated based therapy. As regards to end-stage liver disease, earlier prediction and diagnosis of the disease progression are among the key issues. Dr. Chen Tao, the deputy chair of our department, and Dr. Wang Xiaojing, the deputy chair of the State Key Laboratory, have taken responsibility from basic science to clinical prognostic models. This slide is busy summarizing over 15 years of studies. To simplify and clarify, we demonstrated that viral-induced FGL2 immune coagulation and inflammation lead to hepatocyte apoptosis and necrosis, subsequently causing ACLF and ALF. In collaboration with Professor Serene and the ALRC, the retrospective and prospective cohort study involving 23 centers in Asia-Pacific region demonstrated that higher HBV DNA levels and complications constitute major risk factors for mortality in HBV ACLF. TPPM model exhibited superior performance for 28 and 19-day mortality compared to current existing predictive models, especially in patients with cirrhotic HBV ACLF. Patients with HBV ACLF and 2 or more complications had a higher risk of mortality at day 28 and day 90. We further developed the GIC model for predicting bacterial infection 1 week after hospitalization and a Billy model for day 30 mortality. The GIC model incorporates levels of globin, IL-6, and CRP, while the Billy model includes age, bilirubin, INR, soluble IL-2 receptor, and LDH. These models certainly require validations with large international cohorts. Very recently, I think it was just online a few days ago, we reached an expert consensus on the diagnosis and treatment of end-stage liver disease. Recommendations covered various aspects, including definition, epidemiology, pathogenesis, clinical manifestations, diagnostic and therapeutic procedures, and so on. How about HBV metabolism disorder and disease progression? About 10 years ago, little was known in this field. We began to understand the complicated interaction led by Dr. Wang Hongwu and recently Dr. Wang Xiaojing, who has been promoted to a full professor, joined this area. She returned after 2 years with Professor Gyongzin Zabo. My appreciation to Professor Zabo. In the setting of HBV and metabolic association fatty liver disease, MAFLD, we have observed that HBV expression syngenically increased cholesterol deposition. The increase in intrahepatic cholesterol is attributed to metabolic alterations in cholesterol metabolism. Ectopic expression of HBV component HBC antigen, but not HBs or HBx, selectively promotes hepatocellular cholesterol levels. The free fatty acid and alcohol may activate response molecules, including FGL2 and HIF-1 alpha in macrophages, which aggravate the progression of non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, though the induction of inflammation signal pathways and impairment of autophagic flow. Consequently, this induces inflammation and lipid metabolism disorder in the liver. In the context of HBV, MAFLD, and antiviral treatment, disease progression, we have shown that ALT normal treatment naive patients with chronic hepatitis B may exist metabolic abnormality, steatosis, and significant fibrosis. However, obesity status does not seem to impact the effect of antiviral therapy. Last but not least, I would like to introduce our infectious disease intensive care unit, which is dedicated to emergency life support that is led by Professor Chen Tao and Professor Chen Guang. This unit has played a vital role in combating COVID-19 pandemic. At the onset of COVID-19 pandemic, we observed that cytokine storm and T-cell lymphopenia were associated with the severity of COVID-19. These conditions subsequently led to multi-organ dysfunction syndrome, acute respiratory distress syndrome, ARDS, and respiratory failure, sepsis, as well as injuries and failures in various of organs, such as heart, liver, and kidneys. We further share our treatment experience and protocols for severe COVID-19. These successful management strategies, including vital signs, monitoring, oxygen therapy, mechanical ventilation, ECMO, and blood perfusion, tailored to different clinic situations. Our systemic follow-up study has elucidated the reasons and the necessity for long-term follow-up and rehabilitation of recovered COVID-19 patients. Additionally, we have developed a LTEMP model based on the data imputation framework combined with the novel deep machine learning technology. This model predicts the long-term neutralizing antibody and IgG levels in these patients. Furthermore, we think it may aid in assessing the risk of recurrent infection and determine the optimal timing of vaccine for the general population. One of the crucial responsibilities of the IICU and the Intelligence Life Supporting Platform is to develop standardized performance protocols, guidance, and consensus for managing the life-threatening infectious disease. This requires significant clinical expertise and dedications in education and training. Some of my former students are now working at other universities after their graduation. For example, Dr. Xiao has served as the president of Kajiao Hospital affiliated with Sun Yixin University. And Dr. Zhu is the department chair at the first affiliated hospital of Nanjing Medical University. Professor Wu, who gained nearly 10 years of experience and expertise from Germany and the United States, is currently working at Peking University, and he will join us next month to our state laboratory. I would like to express my gratitude to all my colleagues for their support during CME and CCIF-LDI from 1220 to 1222. I have had the privilege of being in close contact with great mentors who have come for scientific communication and education for young generations. Professors Lawrence Lansmanner, Professor Masao Mata, Professor Shiv Sarin, and Professor Josie Solono, Professor Gary Levy, and Jidong Jia, Wei Lai, Professor Jingling Ho, and many others have been also very supportive. Support has also come from domestic experts like Senior Professor Zhang Hui and Professor Li Lanjuan, and many others whose name I could not mention one by one. I would like to share some of those precious moments which will likely be the lifelong memories for our students and the next generations. I would also like to take this precious opportunity to express my gratitude for your support in the book entitled Acute Expansion of Chronic Hepatitis B, which was jointly published by Huazhong University of Science and Technology and Press and Springer. My acknowledgements goes to all the colleagues for your support during the 2022 APASL STC at Wuhan. If time allows, I have 1 minute video to share with you. Can we?
Keep a foothold in China, connect and interact with the world. With the support of colleges in China and expert firms all over the world, the CCIFLDI has a great international influence in the past decade. A total of 600 faculties have attended in the conference, and more than 200,000 delegates, both virtually and in person, benefited. 2022 is the 10th year of the Central China Liver Disease Forum. Even under the COVID-19 pandemic, CCIFLDI and APASL, one of the 3 largest convenient liver disease associations, insist to keep on communicate with the colleges around the world through organizing the single-topic conference on critical care in hepatology. 5 state-of-the-art sessions, 3 postgraduate courses, 20 current sessions, 45 oral presentations, 200 plus faculties. This autumn, in this beautiful harvest season, let us gather again in Wuhan to exchange frontier information on infectious diseases and hepatology. Reaping from the rich fields of medical science, we shall advance to plant new seeds of knowledge and make our contribution to disease diagnosis and excellence in patient care worldwide.
Thank you. The Congress attracted over 200,000 online attendees, with over 21,000 from overseas. Thanks for the continuous research funding from the government, which enables the students' research interest and projects to be accomplished. Many thanks to our patients for their trust and dedications in the clinic study. I shall also thank pharmaceutical companies for the research funding and the support they provided. My thanks go to my students and colleagues for their hard work, dedication, their inspiration, and the lessons I learned from them. My special thanks to my family for their support, whether in sunny days or rainy days. I'm very fortunate to have my parents. They gave me life and were our very first teachers. Later, 3 out of the 4 girls become university professors, and 1 works in the international industry company. These 3 girls mean a lot to me. They are not only my 3 younger sisters, but also lifelong friends. I was truly lucky to meet this man at medical school. Later, he became my husband, Xiaoping, a busy clinician and professor in pediatrics. As you can imagine, this meant our children have to grow up mostly on their own. In fact, they turned out to be quite self-sufficient. Jenny became a dentist, while Fred is in computer science. Now the younger lady has their own family and friends. Last but not least, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening. Enjoy the wonderful meeting as the cherry blooms are about to be in full bloom in Kyoto. Welcome to Beijing for APASL 2025. Thank you very much.
So we would like to close this session, but we'd like to take group photos. So all the awardees, please come to the stage, and Professor Sarin and Professor Omata, please come to the stage, and other, SC members, please come to the stage. 正面から